Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the webinar. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nenad Filipovic and I am the Director of Executive Education here at IEDC School of Management. And the idea for our joint session in the afternoon, and hopefully a few more people will join, is to give you an overview of our newly refreshed senior leadership program. This is not a completely new thing. We have had it also in the past years. We have some track record with it. But to say a few words more about what will happen this year, and give you the opportunity also to ask questions, answer your questions as we go. I will share a presentation. You will have access to it. You will get it on your mail later. We are recording this session, so you will also be able to see the recording afterwards if for any reason you would have to leave earlier. The idea is to spend about half an hour, 40 minutes, not more than that, and hopefully give you enough information for you to decide whether SLP is an appropriate solution for you or your colleagues in terms of what value it brings. Let me share the slides. I will go through the presentation, not much lecturing really, but more of a description. But I think using the slides might be helpful. Okay. I hope you can see them. And to start with, of course, the school, you probably already know, has a plethora of programs, and we have organized them in a certain way to support the lifelong learning and personal development of our partners, individual and corporate. As you can see from this chart, we have different kinds of programs. Some of them are shorter, some of them executive forums, address specific audience, company presidents, HRs. We have, of course, a number of in-company programs. Roughly about half of our activity is in that area, tailor-made programs for company needs. But then we have a certain number of programs that follow the development careers in business. And they start with the young audience, young managers program. And then if I may just ask you to mute yourselves unless you have a question. Of course, so when you have a question, feel free to demute, unmute, and ask me. So going through a number of steps from young managers in the very early stage of their careers, general management, advanced management and general management programs, preparing people for going outside of their functional roles into more senior roles where knowing and interacting with other parts of the organization are important. Executive MBAs prepare people for leading the companies or leading the individual businesses. And then the senior leadership program is something that comes, I would say, as a program for people who have been through some other educational programs or have reached a point in their career where they do have a senior responsibility within business, and they would like to get updated on the mostly current challenges and how to think about them in contemporary business. I will say, of course, a few words more about it in a moment, why the logic of the program is as is. But clearly, this kind of positioning has its consequences. We are talking about a modular program, 4 different topics where participants can select one or more, or all of them. And we are talking about the kind of engagement and also time duration which is appropriate for seniority of the participants. Of course, it is aligned with our overall school value proposition and our beliefs in what makes a good education. It is based on a truly exceptional experience. By the way, one of the program modules is on experience economy and on the need to differentiate by creating a special experience for the customers. It is innovative, both in the design, overall design, and in the design of individual modules. It allows people to bond and create a network, so participants tend to stay connected after the program and integrate also with our alumni group. And as process, it allows also for not only learning in terms of new knowledge, acquiring new knowledge, but even for senior people who have been in business for decades, it allows for the kind of reflection and asking the right questions about the business and about oneself that it brings value as a next step in personal and business development. As you might know, we have been around for more than 30 years, close to 40 by now, had close to 100,000 people going through our programs from many, many countries. In many, we also have alumni clubs, and participants of SLP will have access to these clubs. We have quite a lot of faculty from all around the world. All of them are highly experienced in executive education. And our faculty bring a lot of wisdom, I would say, to the classroom. You will see also from people who will teach in this program. All of them are experienced, seasoned executive educators, but they bring a real life experience and they allow people to benefit from exchange with faculty and as much as they benefit from exchanging with each other. Now, our ambition today is to give you an overview of SLP is and how it is organized, who people who will join are based on our experience from previous years, what are the true objectives for this year, how individual modules stand, and get you a little bit more familiar with the faculty, and finally to give space to your questions. Overall, we have designed this program with a very clear aspiration. We looked at what are the challenges that today's business environment put in front of leaders. Not only in our region, also in our region. And we have used a number of sources for that. Our own experience, a number of consulting reports. For example, every year PricewaterhouseCoopers asks CEOs around the globe what are their biggest challenges. And we keep constant feed of that kind of information. We work closely with them and a few other consulting companies. We of course work closely with the corporates in our part of the world, ask in direct contact, discuss with CEOs. And we have come to the conclusion that there is a number of challenges that, as much as one can say are not new, are slightly reshaped with the pandemics and with other factors driving the business and require better insights for the business leaders in order to be able to address them effectively. So we aim to develop the leadership competencies and these broader views in such a way that leaders can effectively work within their businesses and beyond. And by the fact that we can count on top-class faculty, we can also deliver the program in the way we deliver most of our programs, a highly participative style, a lot of discussions, new perspectives on leadership practices, and in a way giving the starting point for major transformational shifts in the companies participants come from. Why these four topics? I said the four challenges, the way we see them, in a way, for those of you who are familiar with the concept of the balanced scorecard, it's almost there. If you recall, balanced scorecard tells us that the business results, the financial results, are the results, but the drivers behind them fall in three major groups. One is how good the company operates in the market and creates value for the customers and gets this value recognized by the customers. The second, how effective the organization is in terms of operations, of using the technologies. And three, how well the organizations use their human capital. And that's in a way corresponds with the insights from the CEO research, saying that the three big groups of challenges people see in business today are around people, definitely seen also in our part of the world as challenge number one, getting the right people and using the people properly. We all know the shortage of talent in the labor pools around us. Second, big challenge, responsible use of technologies to create value either by bringing innovative products to the markets or services, but also decreasing the organizational costs and improving the organizational effectiveness, faster work, more precise work. And of course, the customer value generation for the customer, creativity, innovation, creating new value for customers. These three topics are joined with a fourth topic, and that is what becomes globally recognized. And I would say on the one hand side.
20 seconds.
Yes, please. Can you mute yourself unless you have a question, please? So topic number 4 is the topic of ESG, environment, society, and governance. I'm sorry, somebody has not muted. I have no influence on that. I hope they will. So these 4 topics are in the program, and the order is not really critical. I can take any order. This year we will start with a focus on technology, and I will say a few words more about each of the modules. Then we will focus on talent management and people. Then we will talk about ESG, and we will end with value creation and value capturing through work with our customers, external and internal. Okay. Who will be the participants based on our experience from the last years and applications at this point in time and inquiries at this point in time? We aim at people who have significant responsibilities within the organization, responsibilities on the strategic level, part of the leadership teams in the organizations. Now, in the past, these were people, company presidents, vice presidents, board members, and so on. Also, people coming from professional areas in HR, in consulting, owners, managers. This is the top 10 lists, not necessarily all people come from these positions, but as you can see, one joining the program can expect to have peers with significant experience and ability to, again, add value in the discussions, in the conversations in the program. The objectives, on the one hand side, allow people to understand what kind of strategies the company needs in order to keep growing and being successful, understand what kind of challenges the company is likely to face related to that, and what is the true leadership agenda, and somehow to have more self-confidence that I, as a leader, can cope with that kind of agenda and can improve my own performance based on the input which one gets from the program. Okay. We will not only talk about the principles and give, let's say, insight in trends, we will also talk about best practices, and we will try to have all the discussions going in the direction of actionable solutions. So things which can be done in the organizations, which we can use not as a recipe, not as a fixed toolbox, but as examples of good practices and possibly source of inspiration and source of ideas for adjusting them to our particular needs in our own cultures and in our own industries. The way we learn, as in most of our programs, we will be using case studies, a little bit less than in programs like the MBAs, of course. We will expect some reading, but not excessive. Some faculty presentations, again, not excessive. More inputs on particular topics, and then using that as a basis for a dialogue and discussion. A lot of dialogue, both in smaller groups, smaller teams, and in the classroom overall group. And also some other exercises, creative exercises, role plays, some, I would say, even fun. What will be the individual modules about? Okay. We will start with Dominique Turk. He will actually not be completely alone in the program, because he agreed with Dr. Herlichka, who is the CEO of Infineon, one of the major companies, as you know, in IT area. She will join him as a guest speaker, but I think it will be very welcome input from real life. And Dominic is one of the global leading experts. I wouldn't like to use the word futurist. He speaks about future trends and what they mean for business. But I think he is more than just abstract philosopher about what is around us and how to interpret it. He actually is focused on the strategic role of technology in the companies. And this time he will not really look at it from the technology perspective. I mean, he will be talking about technologies, and in particular about two, digital and AI as an important part of it. He actually thinks that the wave of digital innovations and transformation is not completely exhausted, but it certainly is already a mature wave. And the next wave to look at is what he calls the human enhancement technologies. Things related to biology, to genetics, things where science allows us to, for example, neuroscience allows us to not only better understand how humans operate and use it for business, but also influence it, improving the quality of life, of course. Now, he will look at these two aspects of technology, but from several perspectives. One is the value-adding perspective. How can technology and how technologies are likely influencing our business models? Where is the space for using technology for growth of the companies, using technology for new value propositions to the customers, but also where we can expect technologies to be disruptive and end the life of the traditional business models. So in our industry, that we will face a disruptor that will significantly change the way we play in our industry, the way profits are generated in the industry, and the incumbents, the old players, will be forced to change. Otherwise, they will face rapid deterioration. So one aspect is that, what is the business potential of these technologies? What is the likely disruption, and where we can use it in our own business? But the second, equally important or even more important, is from the corporate governance perspective. How are these business model drivers likely creating risks for the company? For the company, for example, by creating risks for our customers. We all know, and I think Dominic in his short video, by the way, I do suggest you watch. There are 4 short videos of these 4 modules, each of the professors saying about a minute and a half to setting expectations about individual modules. And the classical example of this technological challenge is the legal and social responsibility of digital platforms, of social media for the well-being of people. Are they creating harm to users? We all know the teenagers suffering from being on social media, self-esteem problems and so on. We all know the rigging of democratic rules in some countries through the misuse of digital technology and the social networks and so on. So what are the risks companies create for themselves and their users? And what are the likely responses from the government and the regulators, which again create business risks for the companies? What are the ethical challenges there and ethical responsibilities? And then, of course, what are the implications of all of that for us as leaders? How should we as leaders think about use of technology, of particular technology in our company, not only to avoid risks and reshape our business models in the right way, but hopefully gain some competitive advantage and use technologies as sources of growth for the future. So that is the first module, linking the technology with leadership challenges and responsible leadership. The second one, as said, probably these days, the biggest, certainly one of the biggest challenges in not only in our part of the world, throughout the world, is people. The future of work and how do we manage people effectively. And in essence, Philip Stiles, our professor from Cambridge University, extremely experienced also as a corporate advisor. He works not only as faculty, as a professor, he works also as an advisor, consultant to a number of global companies, and is teaching and consulting around the world and has been with our schools for many years. Philip will talk about, he says, about three big issues. Okay, the issue what are the things that people in the future will need to be effective in their work, employees and in particular leaders. Okay. He will talk about where, how does the work, nature of work changes. Obviously, in the pandemics, we had more online work. Very likely some of it is to stay. What are the experiences of online, hybrid, offline, and where the world is likely to go, and what will be the implications for the managers, for the leaders, in order to use these new trends effectively for our own organizations. And obviously, who will be the talents for the future, how to attract them, how to maintain them in the organization, how to react in the best possible way to the trends, indicating that not only we have shortage, we definitely have shortage of labor pools in Europe in particular, but that we have changed labor pools, that we have new generations with new behaviors, with new attractors, that they are willing or not to engage on industry level. For example, how do one get people willing to work in the third shift in manufacturing environment these days, and so on. So Philip will talk about these three big things in talent management. What do we see as talent and the competencies needed? Where do we engage and how do we engage this talent in our organizations? And how do we create and maintain healthy talent pools? The third module will be the ESG module with Arnold Smith, our professor from South Africa. And again, Arnold sets a number of questions which actually derive from the new focus on ESG, which is driven by financial markets, among others. More and more owners understand that companies which don't do good work in ESG area are not healthy investment. They are likely becoming liabilities for their owners. They don't get good access to financial markets, not only in terms of raising new capital, also in terms of loans. For example, I'm working with a number of banks in the region, and more banks are becoming very, very stringent to whom they give loans and from which industries they exit in terms of loan portfolio, because they don't see them healthy. Driven by, on the one hand side, financial markets, driven, of course, also by labor markets. Young generations, Generation Z is a good example, Y and Z, don't want to engage with companies which don't fulfill their expectations when it comes to ESG and being responsible companies. Okay, so we understand that this topic is becoming a hot topic. Even in the region, we see with some delay, here in our region, companies are still not that focused on ESG as I think they should be, but it is coming with some delay. So Arnold will be starting the discussion, what really happens, what are the trends, what are the benchmarks, what is the meaning for that for companies, what is the way to design sustainable strategies in our companies, what's the right timing, and then how to consider the implementation of it. People, processes, systems that have to be employed, organizational cultures, who does it? And then finally, how do we know we are there? What kind of KPIs we should set? What are the new expectations about the ESG reporting and so on? So a comprehensive look at creating and implementing sustainability strategies, or, if I may rephrase, even sustainable strategies, because I think that strategies that don't take into consideration sustainability are just not sustainable. That companies that do not have active strategies in the area of sustainability are likely not to have successful strategies at all. And our module 4 is the module on inspirational leadership and inspired customers. Some of you might have already been exposed to Professor Juan Serrano. In my view, by the way, but that's a very personal view, don't take it as official view of our school, Juan is probably the best professor I saw in my life, in his ability to engage the audience, in his commitment to his profession, and his ability to walk the talk. He himself is extremely customer-oriented and focused on creating and delivering the right value. And he will basically, I think, convey a few messages. One, that these days it is not easy at all to create value for the customers, which would attract attention. Many industries, take for example banking or insurances on the one hand side, most consumer good companies, in many industries have become commoditized. And even big brands, which we still see as big brands, actually are less and less clearly connected to some kind of value, distinctive value generation for their users, which would make them stand up and be different from the others. And more, the way of differentiating is not through the content of the product or service, but is through the overall experience the customers have when interacting with the company. And the experience economy, as one calls it, is the source of value generation, and I think it will remain one for some period to come. And it does depend on our ability to create a special relationship, both with external customers, regardless of whether it is B2B or B2C, a relationship and loyalty and engagement, but also with internal ones, with the employees. Without engaged and loyal employees, it's very difficult to keep creating value for the market. Therefore, we will talk about what are the actual drivers of customer engagement and employee engagement and loyalty. What are the implications of these drivers for the organizational setting? What is the role of leaders in that? And how leaders, through various interventions, reshape the cultures of the companies and the behaviors of people in that direction. So this will be the contents of these 4 modules. And as I said, you will see actually quite diverse group of people. Each of them is a special case. Each of them is different. Arnold by the way, 2 of them are native speakers, Arnold and Philip, but one British, one South African. Dominique, you will probably find his French-English source of amusement. Juan, who has lived in the United States and works now in Spain for many, many years, very, very international in his behaviors, in his attitudes, and also in the way he sees management profession. All of them coming with interesting stories, all of them coming with a lot of energy and ability to engage people in productive conversations. At the end of the program, participants who will finish all 4 modules will be awarded the certificate. I think it's not a major attractor for many of us. By the way, more and more companies do look at the lifelong education as something which is important, and sometimes people show these certificates as a proof they have gone through a part of it. I think more than a certificate itself, you will enjoy and benefit from an experience that opens eyes, puts an interesting reflection in front of us, both on the personal and corporate level. So that's what I had in mind of saying for today. I have used my half an hour, and now I'm open to any questions or comments you might have. I will stop sharing the presentation, and feel free to ask questions, please, if any. If not now or today, of course, feel free to stay in touch with us, and through our sales office and Albina in particular, or directly myself. You can easily find our emails, send an email or get in touch for a one-on-one conversation if you need any further clarification. But otherwise, I would definitely be extremely happy to see you starting in April, or maybe joining on a module by module basis for some of the future modules. If no questions, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon, and I'm looking forward to see you soon. Goodbye.